Hello, beloveds. If you're here for the first time, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. It's Black History Month, and today I'll share how following the teachings of Jesus, and you must be mindful that faith is a component here, you will be able to heal your mind and your body. It works if you work it. This is a phrase, or rather an affirmative um, statement that Reverend Dr. Johnnie Coleman used. And more specifically, she'd prefer if we used it this way: it works if I work it. Dr. Coleman was affectionately called Johnnie, and it is she was referred to as the First Lady of New Thought. She was born in Centerville, Alabama, and raised in Columbus, Mississippi, in a spiritual environment by her parents, who were active members of the church. And they encouraged their only child to participate. Her early ambitions were really tied to music and show business. At an early age, she was working towards becoming a Broadway dancer, although she really had ideas of becoming a saxophone player. After learning that she had an incurable disease in 1952, Dr. Coleman enrolled in the Unity School of Christianity. That's in Lee Summit, Missouri, where she received her Unity teacher's credential. And in 1958, she became a Unity minister. This is how it all began for her. Now, Dr. Coleman was not an early morning person. So she got a phone call around 8 o'clock one morning. And the person on the other end of the phone said to her, "You have 6 months to live." Here again, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. She's not a morning person. And she thought she misunderstood what the person was saying. So she said, "Excuse me?" And they repeated, "You have 6 months to live." And from her description, this is a recording that I'll listen to. From her description, it was pretty much that cut and dry. She says, "I don't cry a lot, but when I do cry, I cry long and hard." So she went into that hard cry, as any of us would, getting that kind of news, particularly by phone. She was crying, and her mom was there, so maybe she was going into the area where her mom was, but she stumbled into the living room coffee table, and a book fell off. The book was called Unity. It was a magazine, the Weekly Unity magazine. She picked it up and she read these lines: "God is your help. You cannot be sick. God is your help. You can't be sick." She argued with that line and argued with her line, and her mother must have overheard her. Her mom came into the room and said to her, "If you feel that strongly about it, just go to where the book is published." So she did. They don't talk about the time frame that it took for her to do that, but she got in her car and she went to Missouri. At that time, it was 4 weeks during 4 summers, and you could get your teaching credential. She was so excited about this because the woman had told her that, yes, it's true. You can heal your body by your thoughts. She was the first in class that first morning, and she had 2 lessons in a book entitled Lessons in Truth. she came back home and she was fired up. She was ready to set the world on fire with her teachings. Her study group formed in her home with just her family, really. But her hairdresser noticed something and she said, "You look so good and you look so different. Whatever this is, I want some of it." So she told her to come by the house every day. She would make dinner and she would share everything with her. She did. And of course, the number of people coming to her home in the evenings grew over time. Ultimately, Johnnie Coleman would found Christ Unity Temple, and later named Christ Universal Temple, a Chicago-based megachurch. It included two institutions of learning and a large banquet and meeting facility. In 1974, Coleman founded the Universal Foundation for Better Living in response to blatant racism experienced as part of Unity at that time. Unity, an international association of Bible-based New Thought Christian churches, centers, and study groups. Now, Catherine Ponder met Johnnie Coleman. Catherine Ponder is the author of 17 books and a woman whose name is synonymous with the Unity Circles, with studying the laws of prosperity. She's written more than 17 books. And this is what she had to say about Johnnie Coleman. She said, "When I first met Johnnie at Unity Village almost 50 years ago, I had no idea she had a diagnosis of 6 months to live hanging over her. I returned to her large new complex in the 1990s on my 40th anniversary in ministry to thank her for being among the early ministers who really believed in me and helped launch me as a writer and minister. When there were those who said to Catherine, 'Catherine, you will never make it at this.' Not only did Johnnie champion me in her own unique way, but she spent all the years since my books began being published in 1962 teaching them and selling them in her church bookstore. She has sometimes called me, she said, Miss Prosperity. Well, if that's true, then she's told Johnnie, I owe it all to you because you were persistent about promoting my books in your bookstore from the very beginning, since that magical year of 1962. Well, Reverend Coleman committed to teaching people to live healthy, happy, prosperous life through the principles taught by Jesus. She said in a 1996 Sun-Times interview, "Our philosophy is positive thinking." Her church drew politicians, seekers, and celebrities. Former Governor Jim Thompson spoke there. Mayor Harold Washington visited the church, which also hosted his 1987 funeral. Actress Eartha Kitt, Michael Jordan's mother, Dolores, attended services. The Chicago Symphony Orchestra performed there. Reverend Coleman called her church non-denominational. It includes all races, she said, all races, black, yellow, white, polka dot. She helped so many people who went into ministry and opened churches in other cities, said the Reverend Helen Carey, her very close friend and longtime second-in-command person. Les Brown was one of the people. He started out as a motivational speaker, and he also became interested, studied under Johnnie Coleman, and became ordained by her. Entertainer Ben Vereen was one of her close friends. He came to perform at the church, and he was so taken that he came back to study under her and became ordained by Johnnie. Actor Della Reese. You remember Touched by an Angel star? She studied under Johnnie Coleman and was ordained by her. And then Johnnie went off, and rather, Della Reese went off and opened a church in Los Angeles. She also helped and influenced inspirational speaker Iyanla Vanzant. Jesse Jackson and Louis Farrakhan were among her closest friends. Her godsons included Chicago pastors Henry Hardin and T.L. Barrett. She changed my life, said Mitch Kimberlin, Kimberly, publisher of the online magazine Champagne and Beyond. You know, Johnnie really started the megachurch movement. Hers was one of the very first in Chicago. But Nation of Islam minister Louis Farrakhan and Fellowship Ministry Baptist Church pastor Clay Evans became some of her closest friends. She said, I have no children other than my congregation, which is 4,000 plus. Yes, her church was humongous. I had the privilege of visiting her church on one or two occasions when I lived there in Chicago, and it was spectacular. In 1987, Reverend Coleman was honored along with Coretta Scott King, widow of civil rights leader, of course, Martin Luther King Jr., by the National Coalition of 100 Black Women. In her honor, a decade later, a portion of the 119th Street was named in her honor. Reverend Coleman also was a director of the Chicago Port Authority and a member of Chicago Transit Authority Oversight Committee, according to the website www.historymakers.com. Until her retirement in 2006, she often handled her Sunday sermons at a service that drew nearly 4,000 people, and sometimes more than that, actually. She said, we start on time and we get out on time. Order is one of my keys. She was honored by DuSable Museum as an African American history maker. Coleman was the recipient of numerous honors and awards, too many for me to name. I'll just share a few. She held the distinction of advancing the New Thought movement and received the Minister of the Century from the International New Thought Alliance. Coleman was awarded an honorary Doctorate of Divinity degree from her alma mater, Wiley College in Wiley, Texas. The degrees of Doctor of Humane Letters and Doctor of Divinity from Monrovia College, Liberia, and a PhD in Human Letters from the Gospel Ministry Outreach. Other honors include proclamations from the states of Illinois and Michigan, the City of Chicago, the Ohio House of Representatives, the Michigan Legislature, the City of Oakland, California, Miami, Florida, and many others. Coleman retired in 2006. She died at Mercy Hospital in Chicago on December 23rd, 2014, at the age of 94. I will end this with a statement by Reverend Charlene Manuel. She serves as on the faculty of the Unity Urban Ministerial School. Today, we talk about diversity and inclusion. Johnnie Coleman set it in motion for the Unity movement and anchored it as a starting place to a work that is still under construction. So thank you so much for staying till the end and helping to honor Black History Month by recognizing Reverend Dr. Johnnie Coleman. Thank you, beloveds. Through it all, be gentle with yourself. Remember to always pray and meditate before you go out to meet the world. Pray and meditate. It is the foundation of all things good. Bye for now.